Let's be innovative. Let's challenge a norm. Let's raise the bar. Let's be the elite.
To be the best, one must beat the best. Ovals, road courses, the streets of iconic cities, race after race, the top sim racing IndyCar stars will battle it out. In sim racing, it doesn't get any better than this. This is their battleground, for the checkered flag, for the glory, for the right to say they are the best. The cars and stars of the Lionheart IndyCar Series, presented by Butt Kicker, are ready to race.
As the sun sets on the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series, the drivers get ready for the most quintessential of American open-wheel challenges. High speeds, high banked, relentless open-wheel racing, and it comes to you from America's heartland. This is the Kansas Speedway, and welcome to the Butt Kicker Kansas 200, presented by Next Level Racing. Delighted to have your company once more here on RaceBot TV for some more great 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series action. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloudline of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. My name is Arjuna Kenkipati, joined alongside by the one and only Justin Prince, and we are excited with 3 races left to go to see what this facility has in store for us. Let's dive straight into our Butt Kicker pre-race show, and let's be real, JP, 2022 has been the year of Phil Kraus. But in these final races of the season, it's all about building momentum and making a statement as drivers start to think about what lies ahead for 2023.
Absolutely, the pressure is on to be able to build some momentum. Kansas, of course, a very difficult circuit, as we've seen in the Speedway Series, the amount of speed carried around the racetrack. You have Phillip Island, which brought plenty of fireworks last time out. And don't forget about the Triple Crown finale at Auto Club. 3 very different racetracks, 3 very different chances to score points.
It's been a 3-week gap for drivers since Milwaukee, and what a fun race that was. With much consternation going into it, the drivers rose to the occasion and put on a clinic. 2 races though this month. Phillip Island, like JP mentions, the penultimate round of the championship, when we'll also crown the road course champion and know exactly who that is. Auto Club double points to close things out. That's the look at your next level racing schedule. Here's a look at your butt kicker drivers standings, where Phil Kraus has already all but locked up this championship. It's academic at this point, but really the battle behind is between the likes of Alexander Van der Sant, who has separated himself from Robert Malechka, Connor Harrington, and now Matt Taylor, who has all jumped in front of Adam Blocker, who is missing yet another race today as he is in Argentina. His responsibilities with the NTT IndyCar Series continue. But notably, JP, 3 rookies at the top of the field. However, we call them rookies to Lionheart. These are veterans of IndyCar competition.
Absolutely, Philip Kraus and Alexander Van der Sant in particular. Always, we've seen them compete at the highest levels of open wheel racing on the service. The interesting thing is Andrew Marquez coming up to the top 10 of the points. A late charge in this season to be able to break through and close up to Andrew Kinsella.
Yeah, he's had a pretty good run, and still hypothetically, even in with a chance of passing the likes of Jason Brophy. Depends on how things will shake up, and of course double points at the final round. You never know how things will go. It's now been almost 2 full years of the private label Team Hype at the front of the HyperX team standings, and with Powerslide Adrenaline seeing all but a handful of their drivers represented, like we said, Blocker missing. More ground will be ceded to private label Team Hype, who look to back up their championship from 2021. However, look how close it is behind in that battle for third, JP. Synergy Motorsport Silver, 6 points clear of Powerslide Ignition.
Powerslide Ignition's been very impressive as of late, it seems. You keep in mind as well, closing up within about 200 points now. Madworks Motorsports also showing some momentum. I think based on what we're seeing, 3rd place all the way to 5th could be a toss-up to close up the next 3 races of the season.
It's going to be a lot of fun in that HyperX Team Championship. Here's the look, though, at your butt kicker rookie standings. 3 drivers at the front of the overall standings are rookies, so it's no surprise to see Kraus, Van der Sant, and Malechka at the front here again. Bensie's had a good run this season. Marquez, we talked about his run in the late stages, but it's Matthias Kraus that maybe has carried the most momentum through the summer and has really started to hit his stride in this Lionheart IndyCar Series. But what a strong rookie class that we have, and for Adriano Pinheiro to be down in 9th after putting it in pole position in the opening 2 rounds of the season, I think it goes to show just how difficult this championship has been in 2022.
Absolutely, it's been very tricky for some. I agree when it comes to Matthias Kraus, because we've seen him gain more and more confidence, more consistency. And it's so critical to be consistent if you want to battle for a championship. It's going to be intriguing, though, if Mitchell Riggs can try and flip-flop past him for Ascari Autosport.
Yeah, and I think there's plenty of excitement in this rookie field about what lies ahead for 2023, with a bit of experience now under their belts. A look at your Gomez Sim Industries series details as we work the 10th season of this Lionheart IndyCar Series. Of course, it's year 9 of the Lionheart Racing Series, and we're on the latest incarnation of American open wheel racing. We have the Dallara IR18 and a custom fixed setup built by RaceSpot's own Andrew Kinsella. Drivers do have in-car tools to play with as well. Cash and prizes have jumped from over $7,000 in 2021 to over $10,000 in 2022. Our champion walks away with a Gomez Sim Industries Formula Pro Elite Rim, as well as a next level racing GT track cockpit. But with that Triple Crown still to come, there are plenty of prizes still to come there as well. A new champion will be crowned, with Adam Blocker ceding the title to Phil Kraus, but the team champions will continue in their place at the top of that HyperX Team Championship. Here's the rundown through your Moser Racing event details as the Dallara IR18s return to this Kansas Speedway after a 1-year absence. And what I found remarkable is that it's not once, it's not twice, but in half the races that we have previously had here, there has been a tie for pole position. However, while that is a remarkable stat, pole position, not where you want to start. The winner has emerged from outside the top 10 half of the races here, and while they can go caution-free, it's not necessarily the expectation. It is a track which will deliver close finishes, including back in Season 4, the second closest finish in series history. Defending race winner Jason Galvin, don't think we're going to see him in the field, so we may get a first-time winner here today, but I guess that all depends on what Phil Kraus comes out to play here today.
Indeed, and we talked about the difficulty when it comes to being able to win from the pole. Remember, strategy when it comes to this racetrack so critical. The fuel difference expected to be as high as 7 laps today, Arjuna, and for many drivers, that could be the difference between 2-stop and a 3-stop. And we've seen in the Speedway Series, the pole sitter wanted to lead much of the race, still did well, yes. But when it comes to the IR team, expecting a different type of race compared to the more packiness of the Speedway Series.
So get a look at some of the action on track. JP mentioned the fuel window being quite large when it came to the fuel saving, and the reality is Lionheart races have this weird tendency to go caution-free. At least in 2022, but over the course of the series history, it's had a tendency to have cautions that develop few mileage races, close finishes of course as well. Notable highlights, anniversaries here today. Brian Carey was going to make his 75th career start. Not sure if he will be taking to the grid, so that may have to come at Phillip Island. Matt Taylor in the MadWorks Motorsports number 8 makes career start number 50. There have been plenty of anniversaries here across of 2022.
You know, you mentioned no Carey tonight, but expecting to see things go well when it comes to Matt Taylor. He did really well here in Speedway Series competition. Expect him to be a contender. Of note, the practice times, the split between them about half a second. Only Josh Chin has not set a time. He's been focused on pit entry.
Fitting for Joshua Chin in the private label Team Hype number 88. Number 93, excuse me. We're watching the private label Team Hype number 88 of Jason Brophy. Those who know will know. Let's see if we have more pit struggles for the private label Team Hype crew. Both Joshua Chin as well as Jason Brophy are susceptible to the odd lapse when it comes to execution on pit lane. Qualifying maybe not that important here. I think track position and being able to put yourself where you want to be, JP, is going to be important.
Going to be very critical, in my opinion. We've seen it play out that way in several races. We mentioned how big the fuel save is going to be for today. So in other words, you need to make sure you're in the right position, execute your strategy. If you want to be able to cut out a pit stop today, if you try and lead all the laps, there is a strong chance you can't make it to the end. So a lot of drivers going to be really tested in regards to their patience today.
So we throw 5 minutes onto the clock for qualifying. Drivers will get 2 laps and the track to themselves for go fast time here. See how important it will be. No end-of-line penalties for today, so if anyone chooses not to qualify, that will be a decision that they have elected to make. Let's see exactly how it will play out. Cars beginning to roll out onto track, and one of the first is Matthias Kraus. We talk about the run that some of these drivers have had in these recent races. Matthias Kraus has been consistently in the top 10 since basically Mosport back in July. Yes, Michigan was a brief blip for him, but a handful of top 5s to his name, but consistently knocking at the door now.
Now, looking solid to start off this qualifying session. It's worth noting several drivers elected to make their cars lighter with the fuel burn, with how quick these laps can be around this racetrack. Kraus elected to go out on a full tank, essentially. You can already see just trying to paint that white line that's been talked about where in the first 15 laps. That is expected to be the line, but after 15 laps, expect drivers to get very tight.
Now, will there be any apron usage? That's the question that I sort of have on lap 2. Don't think you'll see it on the opening lap. Kraus now the only lap time on the board. 25.233. We'll see where it stacks up. If you're curious about qualifying records, well, that was season 4, 24.777. That, though, with the Dallara DW12. Kraus finds a marginal improvements, 400th of a second, still on top, with Riggs, Lanini, and Hacker all now punching in times. Let's see if they find speed on lap 2.
I find it very interesting. A lot of the drivers, it seems on the first lap in particular, some of them electing to stay up to the white line rather than use the banking as a ramp to set up the momentum the second lap. But the apron is being used by some drivers here in qualifying. Chris Lanini, top of the board by 100th of a second.
Yeah, I get the distinct sense that they're just going to tumble the lap times bit by bit. Now, Joshua Chin, one of the first, you'd say, major contenders to get his qualifying done. Bombers back to the top with a 25.027. Joshua Chin with only a 25.078. Get the distinct impression that Joshua Chin has not showed up with much practice for this one, and that is why the focus was on the pit lane entry. Jacob Oster will wind himself up now in that factory back to number 82, crossing over from the Lionheart Speedway Series on a partial run at the end of 2022. 25.015. He'll get pole by a full 100th of a second.
With qualifying run, he does have Brandon Trano and Brendan Lichtenberg on his box tonight, so a lot of encouragement for Oster in this one. Frazier's been solid in qualifying throughout the season. He didn't really improve, though, a 25.1, one of the slower second laps.
We have a lot of cars on track. Harrington, Van de Sant, Kinsella, Benzie, Taylor, Brophy. We'll see how they stack up in a moment. First, it's Graf. Very slow lap 1, by the way, for Connor Harrington. Not sure if that's indicative of trouble. Graf will punch in a 25.085. See where that will net him. Here, though, is Connor Harrington building to the line. Now he needs to get something on the board. Badeford to 6th, Harrington to the top.
Looks like that first lap was a game plan to be able to try and build up the momentum and build the tire temps to the perfect window to be able to set up the time. Jason Brophy, I think you need to keep an eye on too.
Wow, sorry, I got lied to by the timing and scoring on the graphic there, which stopped with a 24.95, 5 thousandths, but it is Harrington on provisional pole. I think the only drivers we still expect something from include Alexander Van der Sant, who is winding up now for his first lap in qualifying. Matt Taylor, one of the others, maybe Phil Kraus as well. You mentioned Taylor had some success here in the Dallara DW12.
Been solid in qualifying, not that great here today. There is something to note here as Van de Sant might be able to get the time in here to close out. Philip Kraus not qualifying today.
Oh, yeah.
Which means Kraus electing to start from the back to give himself a challenge in Piers.
I was kind of waiting for it to happen. I think Van de Sant will jump to the outside, or inside rather, of row number 2, but my days, the front couple of rows split by the narrowest of margin. Once again, though, qualifying has come to a close. We are ready to go racing. With just 3 rounds left in this 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series, we land at the Kansas Speedway for the first time since 2020, and we are ready to go to battle for the Butt Kicker Kansas 200. This, a look at your Butt Kicker starting grid. So it will be a private label Team Hype 1 and 2. There is no tie for pole position this time around. It is the 7th pole for Connor Harrington in his Lionheart IndyCar Series career. Alexander Van der Sant and Jacob Oster 3rd and 4th. Plenty of familiar names for the iRacing IndyCar community inside of those front 2 rows. Kurt Bommersbach running well in qualifying up there with Brian Beard as well. Caleb Benzie and Chris Lanini share row 4 with Andrew Kinsella finding a top 10 in qualifying alongside his Powerslide teammate in Joe Branch, who is not feeling the best, but at least is inside of the top 10. Ron Hacker and John Badeford will share row number 6 with Marquez and Chin 13th and 14th. Mitchell Rigg rolls off in 15th spot alongside with Tyler Graf, Bradley Sexton and Alex Scuyon behind them. Bookending the top 20, Matt Houston, Stefan Larkamp with Adam Frazier and Matt Taylor 21st and 22nd. Matthias Kraus, the final car with a lap time on the board. Phil Kraus will roll off in 24th alongside the likes of Lionel Calisto and Luis Gonzalez Nunez. Plenty of drama then, at least when it comes to Philip Kraus, who will have to carve his way through the field. A very different situation to what he's experienced 11 times this season, and in the last 3 races starting at the very front of the field. As the field gets ready though to roll off of pit lane, we've got featured onboard cameras to run you down through, and let's start with Matt Taylor, who carries with him Extreme Scoring, your complete league management software. Visit extremescoring.info.
Next Level Racing on board tonight, carried by Andrew Kinsella. Take your racing to the next level. Visit nextlevelracing.com.
Tyler Graf carries graphics, esports with him. World-class design from the real world to virtual. Visit graphicsesports.com.
And carrying the HyperX on board, it's your pole sitter, Connor Harrington. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers, and HyperX is always ready to game.
Quick expectations then, JP, as we get ready to go racing.
I think Philip Kraus should put on a show tonight, going from the back, trying to get to the front tonight. It's going to be very intriguing to see how aggressive he's going to be off the launch. His teammates, meanwhile, have a good shot to try and control the tempo early here in this one.
Competition, commitment, excitement. This is Lionheart, and as we head into the final stages of 2022, it's time to go racing once more at the Kansas Speedway. It's private label Team Hype 1 and 2. This is the start of the Butt Kicker Kansas 200, presented by Next Level Racing. High speed, high intensity, it's going to be all out there for these drivers for 134 laps. Jason Brophy hits the front, and I think the reality is maybe no one will want to lead here, with fuel saving being at the forefront of drivers' minds.
Wouldn't be surprised to see the swap draft between your top 2 runners in the early going. Try and work as a team to dictate the pace. That's what they're doing. Brophy that time taking the high side, Harrington the low side with the swap.
See how congested it is in the back of the pack. Josh Chin has already lost a position on this race start, trying to stay out of trouble. Andrew Marquez will slide up the track and clear himself in front of John Bader for a moment. The Alpine Stars geodesic racing machine trying to fight back. Jason Brophy has had a major issue, lost a whole bunch of momentum on the outside line. Connor Harrington now builds a 0.6 of a second advantage.
And that does not bear well when it comes to the strategy, game plan, when it comes to private label Team Hype. Oster essentially just took advantage, passed him to the inside. Everybody else choo-choo trained him. And now there goes that tempo of control. Harrington is on his lonesome by half a second from it.
It's a little bit, of course, busier in the heart of the action. 2 wide, 2 rows deep. Kinsella, Bensi, and then Lanini and Branch throw the blanket over them. Riggs and Hacker side by side as well. We said maybe it wasn't going to be a pack race, JP, but you've got to get through these early stages and then let the tires start to fall off.
Yeah, expect the top line to be the preferred line around lap 20 or so based on the trends coming into this race. You can already tell, though, the snake being utilized by some of your top runners to try and break up some of this momentum, be able to keep up towards the front, maintain that track position.
I think Jacob Oster has something to prove here today, JP. His limited runnings so far in this Dallara IR18 have not really shown the caliber of driver that we have come to see from Oster on RaceSpot TV. He is very capable, and like you said, with Brandon Traino, Brendan Lichtenberg on the box with that alliance with Team i5G, doesn't get much better in terms of advice for young Jacob Oster.
Absolutely. Oster up 2 spots so far. Brophy starting to gain back some of the spots, it appears, trying to at least battle with Caleb Bensi. But keep in mind, we expected some drivers to slice their way through the pack already. A couple +4s amongst the top 10. Marquez in particular, who's in the middle of that hornet's nest.
This is where fortune favors the bold. Right on the ragged edge. Jason Brophy pinched down low, and on lap 7, maybe not yet at that crossover point. Getting closer and closer, that is for sure. We've closed up to your race leader as well, so not exactly sure what the plan now will be for those through the field. Let's see if we can pick up, by the way, exactly what happened capture Jason Brophy here, because I think we're very curious as we grab a look at the Race Spot TV replay.
Yeah, it looks alright through 3 and 4, but then you start to see some of the aggression build up. You have Oster off the back wing. Oster in turn gets a great run, gets some slipstream, dives underneath to be able to follow Van de Sant, and the whole bottom line just freight trains him.
We talked about how important positioning was going to be. Now look at how Bomber's back cleared himself on Jason Brophy, and then he had to really start to stymie the bleeding. So plenty of drama. Now Brophy very much in the hornet's nest, and 10 laps into this, it still has not splintered up momentarily 3 wide, with Kinsella losing out. Brophy and Bomber's back will work their way forward, but there's a nervous tension in the air, that's for sure.
Absolutely, you don't want to end up losing the chance to make it on the 2-stop by pushing almost too hard. Yes, you need to be able to be in position to battle for the spots, but also need to think if you push too hard, you're going to be out of that fuel window to make it to the end. Kinsella, he's been riding around the 10th spot, for example, just letting the race come to him, just trying to save a bit, just trying to follow on in the choo-choo train.
Look at how he's just trying to put some clean air onto the nose of that Dallara IR18. Now, remember, Kinsella builds the setups, but by no means does he have a competitive advantage. I think that is probably the most major thing to talk about. They are side by side at the front of the field. Brian Beard is now +4 and in second, looking for +5 and the race lead into turn 3.
Will the top line be the advantage now for Beard to utilize? See that momentum starting to build up. Harrington still has the preferred line before the crossover. Bomber's back, trying to follow that top groove currently. Doing a solid job to be able to keep himself top 5.
Let's talk quickly weather conditions here. Not that warm, 23 degrees Celsius in the air, 39 on the track itself, with some cloud cover to speak of. It's the wind that maybe will gust and cause a variety of issues for the drivers. Beard builds a bit more momentum on the outside line, and you can see just how checked up the inside has gotten behind Connor Harrington. 4 cars stacked up on the high line behind him, and Beard still maintaining the outside.
I think Beard at this point wants to take over this race lead, wants to do it on the high side. Oster already in position for the transition. A couple other drivers, though, taking advantage of most of the field, moving to the high side. Marquez, in particular, still making the bottom line work, up 9 already.
Lap times at around 25.7s now. We've lost half a second relative to where we started this race. Still a hornet's nest. Bradley Sexton started in pit lane. Is he regretting that choice? In danger of going a lap down if we continue at this frenetic tempo. How long can it last? Well, remember, we've gone caution-free in the past here before. You do have to go back to season 6. The last time we were here, JP, 6 cautions played itself out.
Yeah, there is the chance for attrition pop-up. Speedway Series competition in particular is the best example of that. Last year's Speedway Series race at Kansas, remember the leaders wrecked down the back straight away. But when it comes to this race so far today, a lot of respect being shown, a lot of clean space being given. No major squeezes quite yet. Everyone just pacing themselves on the strategy. Want to mention, though, Philip Kraus has gone nowhere. He's stuck in 23rd still.
Well, I think when you see the field not breaking up like this, maybe there is something to his call of just not qualifying and trying to stay out of trouble. Matt Taylor down low with Tyler Graf, Madworks Motorsports versus that Graphics LC entry. Some separation starting to build into turn 1. I think that's the furthest in front that Brian Beard has been so far today. And while by no means is he in front out of turn 2, this may be the chance for him to clear Harrington for the race lead.
He's been so close a couple times already. This time, not able to fully clear yet again. He just prefers to run that line, just doesn't have the draft to be able to pull fully on by. And in turn, checking him up a little bit here in this 25.7 still.
AJ Musselman in the YouTube chat chiming in to say that maybe Connor Harrington running in a reduced fuel map might be a good way to preserve some of the tires. Quick look then as we see Bradley Sexton after starting in pit lane at the very tail of the field and 15 seconds adrift of your leaders. After debuting at the end of 2021 in Auto Club and our season finale, he's had a quiet run in 2022. And like I said, for plenty of these rookies, JP, they're just looking forward to see what they can use out of this year to continue getting better.
Now, Sexton a fair bit behind the pack. Yes, 14 seconds behind. But the main emphasis we've seen from Sexton a couple times is try and keep it clean, try and stay out of trouble. He started from the pits a couple times this year.
I think I have an explanation, by the way, JP, for why Kraus is at the back. On one hand, I can show you how many laps of practice Phil Kraus has done for this race.
Well, that's going to be a major playing point of this, absolutely. And explains.
Again, reality is it does not matter. Phil Kraus, one hand on the title, just waiting to coronate himself basically when we get to Fontana and the final race of the campaign. But at least he's still out there. Good to see. Although his streak of podiums is very much, I think, in threat of coming to the end. We'll have to see how much he can fight. 22 laps in the books and still no separation between the two cars fighting side by side for the lead.
At this point, I think the main emphasis is ride, ride, ride. Put yourself in the right spot for when the pit stop window opens for you today, and then execute that said pit stop. It's going to be so critical, I think, for so many drivers in turn to make sure they nail that pit entry. Otherwise, take them right out of contention for this race.
A look from up above as Jason Brophy tries to send it to the inside of Jacob Oster. Love these views from up high to just see the lines being taken as drivers just try and navigate their way through the maze of dirty air in front of them. Best drivers have a knack for finding their way forward. Movers and shakers, left side of the screen. You can pick that one up. You can see Briggs and Marquez inside of the top 10 have worked their way forward. So has Brian Beard. Callisto's plus 11. Handful of drivers, including Tyler Graf, -8 for him. I think he's doing the definition of riding at the back.
And not the best of races, to say the least, for Tyler Graf. He's improved his qualifying in Speedway, but he struggled in qualifying in this series, this season. Really costing him a lot of ground. Chris Olnini, meanwhile, who started off qualifying well, -4, trying to hold off some big movers. Matt Houston, Lyon Callisto on the charge behind him.
Yeah, there's action up and down through the field, but it's that type of action where I'm sure to some degree just focus on the fuel saving. Right on board with Jacob Oster, and we'll get a good perspective of what the drivers are navigating at this point in the run. Remember, fuel window estimated around 43, 45 laps in traffic, with the potential to maybe go as far as 48. You save a little bit of fuel, JP.
Save, and more save, right? We talked about what the fuel mapping potential for Harrington. He's been leading this entire race essentially for all but 2 laps. So he has to be able to try and find a way to save the gas. For many of these other drivers, they can just ride on forward through 50 we're seeing in the corners, and in turn, let the drivers in front of them feed them the fuel mileage that they need.
So a change that we saw, I think, in 2021, where the fuel maps in the car became a lot more important and viable. So it's changed things around. We do have a change for the lead. Brian Beard will lead at the line, and Connor Harrington has settled into line in second place.
Honestly, I think Harrington doesn't mind losing the lead here. Beard has made it clear he wants to lead. He's been trying to clear on the outside all race. Already looking quicker down the straightaways compared to Harrington despite the draft. So Harrington just executing by allowing the drivers in front of him, in particular Brian Beard, to just pull him around the racetrack.
Now will Van der Zandt want to work his way forward? Harrington looks to the inside, now may compromise him and allow Van der Zandt to get to the outside, but he's just a bit too far behind. And again now, side by side for the race lead as we get ready to put 30 laps into the books. If you pit on lap 45 and pit every 45 laps after that, you will have to make an additional stop compared to those that are able to go potentially to lap 47. So keep that in mind. That is why fuel saving will be paramount in the heart of the pack. Brian Beard has maybe just elected to go full pedal to the metal and gamble on cautions flying at some point. But I just think back, JP, to how this year started at Homestead, Miami, a track where it had never gone caution-free and drivers were worried about the prospects for the race. We went caution-free.
Yeah, fuel mileage races have been the constant throughout this season, especially more so last season with these green flag to checkered events. And for many of these drivers, they know they have to be in that window if they want to be on the winning strategy. Looking like Harrington, though, still having to deal with side-by-side. Beard still not backing down on the high side. Bomber's back just allowing both of them to drag him around the racetrack.
It's definitely not as intense as it was maybe 10 laps ago. Tires are starting to fall off, but maybe not as fast as drivers were expecting. We get closer and closer to this pit stop window. Lionel Kalisto is now plus 16. He is into the top 10 and now in front of Marquez to make it plus 17. Mitchell Riggs plus 10 in the Ascari Autosport 09. He's now into the top 5.
And there's that aggression we talked about. Kalisto didn't have the best of qualifying sessions, making the most of it, putting himself in the conversation for when the pit window opens up here today. Could say the same thing for Mitchell Riggs today, inside that top 5. Right now just in the popcorn seat, seeing how things are breaking down in front of him.
Don't forget that maybe undercuts will play a part in this first cycle of pit stop strategy. What do you think is the right call? The best thing about racing is you can try something different. You find out if it works come the checkered flag. Oster's slide backwards continues, at one point challenging for the lead, now trying to hold on to a spot in the top 10. Kalisto in front of him. Marquez will be up next.
So looks like he's dealing with a lot of aero wash. Marquez, perfect example right here. Oster tight off the exit, and in turn that will force Oster to have to lift. Opens up that bottom for Marquez.
Front of the field, Harrington slots into second, and now it's Bombers back challenging forward. Two of the Ascari Autosport machines in the top 5, and let's not forget they are down a man in effect with Barrett Rolfe withdrawing from the series midway through the year. Mitchell Riggs and Bombers back have really represented the team as well as one could hope for.
Yeah, they've been getting better as the year has gone on. In particular, have liked what I've seen from Mitchell Riggs, getting more and more cleaner runs and being able to stay out of trouble. Speaking of drivers cutting through the pack, though, Philip Kraus is finally starting to make his move.
I think now he's understood the car and has figured out that he's already 3.5 seconds back from the leader. Cannot afford to get too further separated. Kalisto now trying to work his way into the top 5. Around the outside, he'll build the momentum, challenging Alexander Van der Sant.
Just picking up a little bit of slipstream to build up the run on the outside. He has a little bit of help in turn because those drivers up in the high groove. Kalisto just slicing and dicing his way through this pack today.
I think it helps that Mitchell Riggs and Bombers back were working together. Kalisto does in fact get past the Power Slide Adrenaline number 96. More and more the tires are wearing, and I do think we're just now getting a sense of how many drivers have been saving in the early stages, not just fuel, but the Firestone tires as well, JP.
Just over the radio, Brian Beard has indicated he'll need to pit in the 5 car, and that was the concern with how aggressive he'd been trying to lead this race. He is the only driver to signal the need to pit here, and in turn has not saved too much this entire run.
Look how treacherous it is getting off the banking as you roll yourself down to pit lane. Doesn't look like any major drama for Brian Beard, who becomes the first to pitch from the front of the field. Bradley Sexton had come in the lap before. You can see him, I think, there, rejoining the track. Now, does Mitchell Riggs dive to pit lane as well, or is he just diving down low and grabbing the race lead? I think for the first time this season, Mitchell Riggs will lead a lap at the line.
Solid move to the bottom. I think he just wants to be able to lead laps here, be able to get himself up on the board. He knows he's been quick today. He and Kalisto, two of the drivers absolutely to watch.
Bombers back into the wall, I think there, JP. I think he got away with that. Correct myself, it's the 21st lap this season that Mitchell Riggs will have led, but I think we're going to get a flurry of pit stops underway shortly because there's more and more separation building on track.
Yeah, that separation building quickly with some of the side-by-sides, and now we're reaching that point. We're expecting things to spread apart as this run gone on tonight, and went on tonight, should say. In fact, the top 13 have broken away from the back half of the field. Here's a look at the replay.
Yep, you can just see, I think brushes the wall, but I do think JP, he gets away with it.
Gonna have to see in terms of the pit stop lane in case he needs to change the wing. That was something drivers struggled with a bit in practice. Aero wash tight off of turn 2.
It's Kalisto coming down because he's diving down low. We're on to lap 44. Kalisto slowing down, so he will dive to pit lane, and Harrington will chop in front of him. Aggression on pit entry, but that is where the best will make up time.
That was a little bit close for comfort though, Arjuna. That was so close to contact. But you said it there. The top drivers always try and send it hard into the pit lane. It can be the difference of 2 to 3 seconds on the racetrack.
I think we need to grab a look on board with Lionel Kalisto's vantage point at some point through this, because my days, how does Connor Harrington have the confidence to stop in time? And to be fair, Kalisto does bobble off of the apron. Harrington was playing with fire.
Very much so in terms of how close that entry was, as Mitchell Riggs is now in. Of no, Bomber's back indeed, getting lucky. Did not have a wing change on his pit stop. It is currently cycled behind Kalisto.
Harrington will come out behind Brian Beard and 1.3 seconds back from Brian Beard, as Betafer will be the next to dive to pit lane. But drivers are hitting that lap 47 number where they can cut out a pit stop if we go green to the end of this race. Jason Brophy and Alexander Van der Sant at the front of the field. Phil Kraus is up to 4th now.
It was talked about by some, keeping an eye on things. He might have been trying to save hard and then charge through the pack. Guess what? He's in a prime position to take advantage of strategy. Brophy just indicating he's coming into the pit lane this time. Some drivers really pushing this pit window up to 48, 49 laps already.
And to give context to where Kraus is, he's now in front of Joshua Chin by 2 full seconds. That is a remarkable job from Phil Kraus. It's what we expected, even if he's got limited practice. Here they come, pit road bound. Jason Brophy followed in by Van der Sant, Chin, Taylor, Kinsella, and I think Luis Gonzalez Nunez. But that car is going to post-race inspection. Phil Kraus works lap 49.
Curious to see how far he pushes this pit window, looking like he's shuffling through the gears. Yes, Kraus coming in at the other end of the pit lane. You see just how tight some of the entries are. Kraus nice and clean up at the cone, and Kraus in a very prime position to take advantage of going the furthest out of anybody.
Now, where will Brophy and Van der Sant come out related to the quartet almost that is up to speed? There will go Harrington in tow with him, Kalisto, and then Mitchell Riggs. They will blow past, but Van der Sant and Jason Brophy are still technically within drafting range, and now have a major advantage in terms of fuel.
Hearing that Betafer picked up a speeding penalty on his pit entry, the only driver in the field to pick up a penalty. Well, as a result, the 67 has lost 2 laps with that penalty. But you see just how far back Kraus is now. A significant portion back, but he is cycled right next to Brophy in particular.
And he cycled, more importantly, into the top 10. He is plus 15 so far. However, plaudits will go to Lionel Kalisto, plus 23. However, he is gambling that this race will see a caution between now and the end of this race, but we're almost halfway through. The drivers are keeping it clean. We're increasingly getting single-filed from this point forward.
And it's worth noting, Brian Beard has a massive advantage over the rest of this field by more than 2 seconds. We already know that he's going to need an extra pit stop at the rate he's going here. This is not looking good strategy-wise. He needs a caution to have a shot.
Undercut working significantly here for Brian Beard. We'll keep this in mind, but he is very much now in no man's land. Still one of the fastest cars on the track, so in no danger of being caught. And of course, don't forget, he will have one of the lighter cars in terms of fuel, because he will be burning it off a little bit quicker relative to those around him, just by the nature of starting a little bit earlier in the stint. So it's Beard from Callisto, from Harrington, Riggs, and Bombers back the top 5. Now, with all due respect to all of those names, except for Harrington, those are 5 drivers that maybe you would not have expected to have been this dominant this early in the race.
Yeah, that's a solid point because we haven't seen too much in terms of race lead pace from some of those drivers this season. But when it comes to a track like this, some people can execute, some people can find the right strategy, some tracks just click the way it's worked tonight.
Yeah, no, that is for sure, and that's, I think, as well, coming to the end of the season with a lot of these drivers now feeling a little bit more confident, up to speed. They are pushing just a little bit more. Not yet at the halfway mark of this race, but we've been caution-free so far here in America's Heartland. It's round 20 of the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series presented by Butt Kicker. This is the Butt Kicker Kansas 200 presented by Next Level Racing. Don't go anywhere. The run to the checkered flag coming up next on RaceSpot TV.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker, the future is feeling.
Hello everyone and welcome back to RaceSpot TV and coverage of the Butt Kicker Kansas 200 presented by Next Level Racing, the third to last round of the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series. It's been an electric race so far and caution-free with strategy already wide open up and down through the field. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, joined alongside, as always, in the RaceSpot TV commentary booth by the one and only Justin Prince. And Justin, what an electric race that we've had so far. Yes, Brian Beard leads by almost 4 full seconds, but the reality is with his car needing a lot more fuel than the rest of the field to get to the end of this race, it is very much, at least for now, in the hands of Alexander Van der Sande, Jason Brophy, and Jacob Oster.
Now those drivers having a big chance to save gas in the heart of this pack compared to Lyle Callisto, who leads this respective group. And that's going to be the major difference mark, potentially, if it stays green the rest of the way. Who's going to be able to execute on the right strategy is the biggest question on everybody's minds right now. And it's going to potentially come down to the final moments of the race to find out who can make it to the end on gas at the rate we're going.
It's going to be a lot of excitement, and while this race had the potential to be a fuel mileage race at the very start. It was dependent on the race going green, which it has done for 64 laps and counting. 70 still to go. Brian Beard, lap by lap, by the way, JP, is just pulling away at the front of the field.
Over the past 10 laps, averaging 0.2 of a second quicker each time around in that 5 machine. Pretty clear he's in full charge mode at the rate he's going. He knows that he can't make it on the 2-stop, so it's pretty clear he's trying to gain as big of a buffer as he can, see if he can gain the time back later on in this race.
So as it runs, Beard, Callisto, Harrington, Benzien, Riggs the top 5, Bombers back, then 6th. But of those that have been able to extend the stint longest of them all, it is then behind them that Alexander Van der Zandt leads the train of cars. There you can see the stint length so far for the drivers. It's Van der Zandt, Brophy, Oster that all came down together. Then Phil Kraus actually came in 1 lap later, but 1 lap here and there is maybe not as significant as track position may prove to be over the course of this race. Your leader already, though, JP, onto lap 27, and they went 40 laps in the first stint, the shortest of the entirety of the field.
Yeah, I really don't like the strategy if it goes green for Beard, I'll be honest. But I've been liking the strategy indeed for Van der Zandt, for Brophy. Yes, they're a fair bit behind, but they are in the main pack of those saving gas. They're sacrificing the time now to be able to make sure they're good to go to battle for this race win. But impressive, to say the very least, some of those drivers in the heart of the pack. Still have to give credit to Philip Kraus to be able to move himself into this conversation as this race is going on after being so careful early.
It's been a good run so far for Phil Kraus. Now he's got to convert that. Oster in front now of Brophy. Van der Zandt in front of Riggs. So the cars that came down last maybe starting to try and get some track position and work their way and shuffle their way forward. It's Van der Zandt looking up high.
Yeah, Van der Zandt looks like he just wants to go a little bit, maybe try and leapfrog through the traffic. We've seen this a little bit, Arjuna, at the back half of the first run, where some drivers really started to put the pedal to the metal. It's looking like Van der Zandt feels like he might be getting held up here.
I don't know if you really can call it being held up necessarily, but I think there is maybe some wisdom to Van der Zandt trying to do this. I think the goal is that when the rest of the cars come down pit lane, JP, in about 15-20 laps time, if Van der Zandt can put a few machines between him, Oster, and Brophy, maybe he can break away as they dive down into pit lane. And Alexander Van der Zandt is known for his ability to execute when he gets it right.
Sometimes you just want to leapfrog the furthest up through the pack expected. So far, so solid when it comes to Van der Zandt, absolutely.
Van der Zandt, just like Bradley Sexton, who we talked about earlier, one of those that debuted at the end of 2021 in our season finale at Auto Club. Impressed right off the bat as well, and now we're on 2nd in the championship, and we'll look to solidify his lock on that one. Still, of course, with Phillip Island to go, and I think that's a real wild card, JP, because it's so set up dependent in so many ways. So it's all going to depend on what the drivers are given and how they make the most out of it. We had a really intriguing race last year, albeit with minimal passing at the front of the field.
Remember, Philip Kraus tried the alternate strategy, almost made it work in closing stages, but in the end, Colin's strategy ended up being the quickest strategy with the track position when it came to the battle between Blocker and Kraus during Kraus's early stages in this series. I think it's absolutely going to be a challenge, I think, for Island, of course. I think it's going to be even more challenging, though, to be able to compete with Philip Kraus because, well, he's got an island.
I'm just saying, by the way, when it comes to this thing about Phil Kraus building houses at Phillip Island in particular, stay tuned for this season finale. We've got some intriguing things ready to go. Less than 60 to go, so we are nearing that point where you can make it with no more stops. Give it about 12 laps time, and you will see the likes of Van der Zandt thinking about that final stop of the race. He will need to work a little bit more. Van der Zandt has now put both the Ascari Autosports teammates between him and Jacob Oster.
Now, Oster, like the last run, just really struggling in the back end. The car seems to be getting tighter and tighter when it comes to Oster, now getting freight trained by Jason Brophy. And that's been the major difference mark in some cases. Some drivers really struggling when it comes to how tight the cars are getting at the end of these runs.
In-car tools will play a factor, front and rear anti-roll bars to stiffen and loosen it up at each end. Give you a bit more turn, a little less turn, depending on what you need, given what your tires are doing. A weight jacker to load the car across the lateral weight, so the ability to really make the car spin itself out loose. And importantly, especially at a track like this, JP, where it's so fast and furious, you, as always, have got to be on top and proactive with the tools rather than reacting to what you're feeling.
Great point, because if you end up, say, forgetting the tools or just focusing so much on the situation at hand, and you end up forgetting to make the adjustments as the race goes on, we've seen drivers plummet through the field the second they have to deal with aero wash and don't make that adjustment in time. The question mark is, will the adjustments they've made through those in-car tools be enough in some of these circumstances? And it's critical to know exactly which numbers you need for those strategies.
Love the sound of horsepower down into turn number 1. 6 seconds the advantage at the front of the field. Brian Beard is, well, I wonder what the call may be here for him. He is due onto pit lane in a lap or so's time. He's doing a great job of at least maximizing the strategy that he is on, JP, which is really all you can ask for.
Yeah, but he's looking at a final pit stop around lap 120. There is no way Brian Beard makes it to the end on gas. I don't even think he's going to be able to have enough of a buffer to be able to try and hold on to the top 10, since the pit delta is about 35 seconds today in the lane.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he is indeed coming in this lap, slows himself down. Hopefully no drama for Brian Beard in that number 5. It's now Callisto that picks up the point. Harrington, Bensi, Van der Sant, then Riggs, the top 5. And to the point I was making earlier about Van der Sant thinking about trying to build some separation, JP, look how much separation he has built to the green machine back in 7th.
Well, to say that separation absolutely starting to build. Brophy starting to drop back as this run progresses by about 1/10 of a second per lap right now. I think that's more so just the save. You have Phil Kraus right on the rear wing now, too.
Yeah, Phil Kraus right there as well. What a charge it has been for Phil Kraus so far in this race, entering into the pit stop window. Now, 4 laps is what I would call the absolute hard limit. You pit with 48 to go, and you can make it. Any earlier, you're risking too much. Any later, and you're making your life a whole bunch easier. How will these drivers be able to gamble? I think the important thing, of course, JP, is most of these drivers went more than 45 laps in the first stint of the race. A lot of them pushing lap 40 right now.
And we mentioned Brian Beard on a tough strategy. Guess what? He picked up speeding on his pit entry as well. Brian Beard has really done it. He's out of contention now for sure.
Well, I did say hopefully no dramas on pit lane entry. Unfortunately, I guess there was. So Brian Beard will now end up at least 1 lap down. I think he's going to be scored 2 laps down at the end of this. Phil Kraus in front of Jacob Oster. The memo has come through at Private Label Team Hype HQ. Phil Kraus is on the roll.
Doing exactly what he did at the previous stint around this point, trying to push for about 10, 12 laps. Expect a lot of hard charging here at this point. Josh Chin amongst those also trying to do the same. You see how quickly things are grouping up now down the backstretch.
50 to go, less than 50 to go as Lionel Callisto will dive to pit road. I think a bit too early for the 97, who has been looking to run at the front of the field. Word in YouTube chat, as Phil Kraus has a momentary internet issue and now has momentary right front tire issues, is that it's Andrew Kinsella's 12-year anniversary today. So, well, he's going to be hoping that this race goes quite well. Remember, qualifying went well for Andrew. This race maybe not playing out the same. He's -4 down in 13th spot.
Once again, congratulations on the anniversary for Andrew Kinsella. Curious how the focus is so far. Yes, he's dropped back. but he's also in the solid fuel strat. He might be able to get himself lined up if he starts to push a little bit for the top 10. Downside is he's losing ground at faster Joe Brandt, which is not going to help him keep up to that lead group.
It is suboptimal. 46 to go this time at the line. Surely from this point, drivers are good to the end of the race. If, knock on wood, we go caution-free from this point forward. Plenty of drama still could play itself out. Did Jason Brophy just hit the wall?
Bit of a swerve down the backstretch.
Was it Bomber's back, not Brophy, that hit the wall? Not for the first time today.
It didn't look like he hit the wall. I think he just snapped a bit loose, Arjuna. Maybe the weight jacker.
Let's take a look here at what happened to the Ascari Autosport machine. Out of turn 2, runs up the track. It's another brush against the wall, the second time he's done it.
Yeah, the question is, did he really do it this time with the scrapes? Bomber's
Betsy
back
coming in.
Yep,
Betsy coming in, Harrington again, very, very aggressive with the pit entry. Lots of smoke. Now I wonder, did Harrington get an unsafe pit entry? Because I've never seen anyone do that before.
Doesn't look like an in-sim black flag for Harrington, but that's what you have to be able to do. Be able to know the exact limits of how further in you can go compared to your competitors.
No, never mind. Grabbing a look at the replay, which we get a look here. This is about as pixel perfect as you can get on pit lane entry. Watch as he basically runs the yellow line. Just the camera angle that we got on the live picture showed it maybe a little bit more drastically. 43 to go. Van der Sant, Riggs, Brophy, Kraus, Nunes still running at the front of this field. Now, how long can Van der Sant and company go? Can they leave Harrington trapped one lap down in the danger zone?
Or pit stops this time, Riggs, Nunez amongst those ducking on in. And this is the critical point of the race. It's going to be a little bit tight for some. Some drivers curious if they try and underfield just the tiniest bit. Be a little bit quicker if they're able to go 47 once again.
Here comes Van der Sant. So Brophy will go beyond this point of the race, or is that just the line that Van der Sant was taking, searching for a bit of clean air? They've got traffic in front of them. They may be even able to go another 5 laps from here, so there is plenty of jeopardy for 8th on back. It's technically going to be 6th on back in a moment's time when Marquez and Taylor finish their cycle in pit lane. All 1 lap down at this juncture of the race. And there we go! As soon as we talk about it, the caution flies for the first time today. It's Brophy, Van der Sant, Kraus, Oster, and Kinsella in the lucky hot seat. Everyone else will be scored as 1 lap down.
The pit exit here at this track, Arjuna, very treacherous. And if you end up carrying too much speed at a high amount of revs, you end up going around. Mitchell Riggs was the trigger for the caution flag. He had been doing so well in this race, but he's now thrown it all away with a major mistake in the pit lane that triggers this caution to make sure drivers can get to the end.
So we'll see if we can pick this one up, because I'm very curious how this ended for Mitchell Riggs. And boom, right there, off of pit lane. And now, where does this issue... Oh my days, just bumpy, bumpy, bumpy. And yeah, that is as clear a cut caution as they will ever come. A car sliding up the track. It does not get more obvious than that. Watch from up above, JP.
Yeah, just try to carry too much speed along the bumps. Try to go the short distance around the bottom of the racetrack. Right there, hit some of the bumps for the infield road course. And that is enough to trigger the first yellow flag of the night.
And they do say that cautions breed cautions. Race off of pit road. Van der Sant in front of Brophy, Kraus, Oster, and Kinsella. Now, yes, the field will get their laps back. However, the complexion of this race has changed. With now limited fuel, those 5 cars that have dived down pit lane will be as close to the perfect number as they can get. Everyone else will be carrying a bit more, trying to burn it right now. Basically, it doesn't get much more of a perfect situation than what it is for the 5 at the front.
Yeah, this has played out perfectly for those drivers. Van der Sant, Brophy, Kraus, Oster, and Kinsella. And sometimes You just need to be lucky to be able to be on the right strategy. Guess what? They got extremely lucky with the time at the caution flag. Now everyone going to be bunched up. Just 10 drivers on the lead lap with the wave arounds.
See exactly how it will play out once we get to that 1 to go lap, and then the field will cycle their way around. Still waiting for the lights to go off, though, before we can get that one. Should, I think, be the next time around. So get your popcorn ready, and JP, get strapped on in, because cautions breed cautions. Fresh tires for the field, and now a less than 40 lap dash to the checkered flag.
And those able to pit under this caution, I think, can be the most aggressive out of anybody, absolutely. They are in the prime position to be able to pounce here. The drivers on the wave around. Marquez, I think, is in a good spot. Kalisto, not so much. Matt Taylor's in a decent spot. Harrington's in a row. All divided in terms of how is this going to work. T2 drivers taking to the lead lap with the wave arounds per race control.
So 38 to go, will be 36 at the line. It's a last to first challenge for Phil Kraus that is not going badly. He is up there in the 3rd position right now. So we'll see the lights potentially go off this time around. And we'll see what happens, JP. I think you're right, 20-something cars will be back on the leading lap, and of them, Lionel Kalisto will have the most worn tires and plenty to do to fight.
Absolutely, this should be wild.
So there we go, wave around starting. So Van der Sant, Brophy, Kraus, Oster, Kinsella will then stack up behind them. Marquez, Kalisto, Taylor, Harrington, and Bensi to get restarted. Connor Harrington, one of the big losers in this situation.
All the way back to 9th with this.
It was looking good to contend for the race win. See how it shakes up for him. Lights are off on the pace car. 36 laps. If we go green from here to the end, 15 minutes will fly past, and the checkered flag will be waiting for the winner. Phil Kraus's streak of poles has come to an end once more, although he's had enough. 11 of 19 before today. He didn't need a 4th in a row. Will he grab a 3rd victory in a row to add to what has been a storied 2022? Pace car off, and the field in control of Alexander Van der Sant. With Brophy and Kraus behind, we go back racing here at the Kansas Speedway. Immediately aggressive from the likes of Connor Harrington, Caleb Bensi, and Matt Taylor. 3 wide for a moment, and these drivers know that, JP, there is no time to dawdle. Already a battle for the race lead.
They have to go. They have to dive it. The aggression right there. Can Brophy forward clear to make contact?
A little bit of contact, but crucially, 4th and 5th split now by 1.2 seconds, and Jason Brophy's got big issues down through the apron and back up the track. Somehow he saves it, but the caution does not fly, and Brophy drops outside the top 10.
Brophy not going to be happy about that, losing all types of track position, but here comes Kraus. He's looking hungry.
Now, was there contact? A lot of mutual respect on both sides in that battle between Alexander Van der Sant and Jason Brophy. Brophy throws the move in late, and now down by the apron, tucked all the way through. There was the first bit of contact as Van der Sant and Kraus battle inset in your screen. There was contact. The serve was returned.
Yeah, it just looked like he didn't realize he was still under there for some reason, but 3 wide for the lead.
Jacob Oster joins the party. Andrew Kinsella in drafting range as well. The more they fight, the potential to bring in Marquez, Taylor, and Harrington starting to close. Still 3 wide with 33 laps to go. It's Van der Sant down low that leads.
Nice clear by Van der Sant, but Kraus has the run. Has a little bit of help behind him as well.
Again, small margins across the field. A potentially for some air between Van der Sant and Brophy in the touch of contact they had. Andrew Kinsella's in the fun as well. What a way it would be for him to celebrate a 12-year anniversary. Jacob Oster ripping the outside groove.
Just trying to take advantage of the runs coming out of the corner. No drafting help though. Kinsella now trying to follow behind Oster.
Which spot do you want to be in? You want to lead? Do you want to be at the back? With coming to 30 to go. 1 second between Kinsella and Marquez. The field is coming. The field is coming quick.
Coming around quick, I think Kinsella in a decent spot here. Philip Cross, I wouldn't be surprised to see him charge extremely hard here in the final stages. Oster not wanting to back down on the high side.
Remember the first stint of the race, we saw plenty of side-by-side until we got about lap number 30 on the tires. We are about 20 laps away from that point. Those final 10 laps may be difficult. The further back you are in line and the more dirty air that you are having to contend with. Not as much ground gained by Marquez that time around. Just a couple of hundredths here and there, but they will all add up. And soon the 4-car fight for the lead will suddenly become, potentially, a 21-car fight for the lead with anyone up in the mix. 2 wide, 2 rows deep for a moment. It's Van der Zandt from Oster at the line.
And the question mark's going to be, is Oster trying to save the tires, or is he burning these tires up trying to make this move? That's been a major trouble spot for him all race long, to try and make passes, and he's fallen back each of the final few laps of these stints today.
These two both hauling, that is for sure. Brophy now in front of Callisto as he tries to climb his way back forward, but another nervy moment for the 88 private label team hype machine. Taylor gets in front of Marquez, whose forward momentum is maybe starting to stall out, albeit slightly. The Madworks Motorsports number 8 is now plus 17 and to the top 5.
He needs to find a way to gain a lot of ground back up on the racetrack, though. A few tenths behind. Battling like this, not going to be too helpful, to say the very least, especially compared to the single file for the most part up front.
Still, though, wheel to wheel between Oster and Van der Zandt, fanning out across this facility at Kansas. Now, Van der Zandt is clear, but does not elect to run up the racetrack and use all of the track on offer. Respect being shown on both sides of this battle, but at this point, Taylor is well and truly now within the draft of your race leader, so that pack has closed. And with 25 to go, I'm not really sure who I would want to be or who I would tip for the victory, but I mean, JP, in what has been an electric 2022 with one of the strongest fields that this series has ever seen, Phil Kraus has been a dominant force, but here we're seeing why this field is so stacked.
And it's taken him a lot of effort to be able to join this conversation from the early onset with no qualifying run. I think he's in a very solid position here if he's saving the tires and utilizes those said tires within the final 7 laps or so. It's the question mark of how this plays out. Oster still not able to clear yet.
Gotta be patient. I think Kinsella may be in the best spot, but Phil Kraus is trying to hang back and mine those tires even more potentially. 23 to go. Oster trying to chop down in the battle for the race lead. Meanwhile, Connor Harrington, who put the car on pole position and has led and been at the front for so much of this race, is trying to fight his way back forward. Harrington up to 7th.
He thought he was in the conversation, should say, for the race win. But you never know when the cautions fly, right? He's been one of the best people on pit road entry today. And as a result, though, of how things have played out for the caution flags, he's going to need a fair bit of luck. Here comes Kinsella.
It's a power slide adrenaline 1 and 2 momentarily. Oster still trying to hang strong around the outside. I said that maybe with no blocker in the field, that power slide adrenaline would not be thinking about the HyperX Team Championship. Yes, Kraus and Harrington are up there in the mix as well, but 1 and 2 for power slide adrenaline with the championship slipping away from them. It doesn't get much better than that.
And those types of opportunities can come far and in between when it comes to some of the runs this season. Kinsella just trying to find a way to make the bottom line work, just isn't working again.
Van der Zandt giving plenty of dirty air to Jacob Oster for the time being. Now Oster returns the favor to Andrew Kinsella. All cars have worked their way up high, 20 laps into this run. It is single file, basically through the field. JP, does seem as though the tires have hit the cliff a little bit earlier.
Especially with how hard some of these drivers have been able to push compared to the previous runs. So expecting a lot of the weight jacker being utilized at this point, especially in the heart of the pack, to be able to situate. Can you get a run? Can you make things work? Kinsella preferring the top line for clean air.
AJ Musselman chimed in to say that he was hoping if he would, he'd be saving his tires for those final 6 to 7 laps. Could you afford to save your tires for the final 6 to 7 laps if it's strung out like this? Remember, this is the home of the second closest finish in series history. It's still shaping up to be a blockbuster to the line.
If you're within about a second or so, I think there's a chance. If you're behind that second, I think you need to close out that buffer. There's just not a lot of time, not a lot of chances to be able to work here. The wind, keep in mind, starting to play a factor.
More and more gaps building between those top two and those behind. Kinsella maybe losing a car length here and there. Matt Taylor not going full Ross Chastain just yet. Will we see any driver go with the video game strategy to run themselves to the line with the new damage model? I don't think you'd want to try it in these open wheel behemoths. Winding up with 16 to go. Just the one caution so far today. Single file at the front. Matt Taylor has slowly worked his way to fourth, and he continues to look forward.
Van de Sant just trying to hug the bottom of the racetrack, try and block off any chances, not allow any slipstream towards the wall. Here comes Taylor, though, on the charge.
Kinsella had the opportunity to block the move, but didn't fight it too hard. Will just use the outside to maintain his position. And now here comes Phil Krause, looking to the inside of Matt Taylor, and in through turn one, the championship elect driver will challenge for fourth spot.
Krause now feeling a little bit of footsteps behind him. Taylor, we've seen it work several times for him throughout the season. He's been able to find the right lines in the aero wash, a little bit of a scrape there.
Was that Connor Harrington? Was that Lionel Callisto? Did not catch, but at the front of the field. Still Van de Sant from Oster from Kinsella. Holding strong as that 41 has not given up the spot to Krause or Taylor just yet, but you can see just how hard those two drivers are working, although for the time being, working on one another. Still, the top two not fighting too hard. 13 to go this time at the line.
Krause just can't find a way to make any ground, it seems, right now. Just not an easy time right now, to say the very least. Kinsella's in a decent spot, but Jacob Oster really liked his positioning. Taylor had the jet out to the wall, from the wall, though.
More and more they are pushing the limits. The season is winding down. This race is winding down into the final 5 minutes. Still no challenge for the race lead, and as much as the drivers that got caught by the timing of the caution have been able to work their way forward. You look at Connor Harrington from the front of the field back to 7th. By no means has he managed to restore the position he was in. The battle from here will be to stay alive. 11 to go, and once we hit about 4 to go, that's the point of no return.
And it's a question mark of, did these drivers burn a little bit too much gas? Should be okay-ish on the fuel. Keyword okay-ish. And if you've been really pushing hard on this run, it could come down to the very big moment. Come down to the final laps to determine who gets the run. Oster still can't get a run to go, coming to 10 to go.
10 laps to sort this out. A dive to the inside by Oster, but not able to perturb the run from Van de Sant. If anything, the factory back 82 slides closer to Andrew Kinsella to make it a power slide adrenaline 1 and 2. Van de Sant's controlling, tires are playing their factor. It looks as though the race is in the hands of Alexander Van de Sant.
Clean air versus aero wash coming in, absolutely. Oster again. End of the run, struggles with tightness, it appears, and that's been his Achilles heel all race long. Kinsella in your trouble.
And Kinsella will cede the position to and to Philip Kraus, excuse me, and now down on the apron. Will this bring out the caution? A bit of a stack up, a huge incident, and the caution out for the second time today. Kalisto will be quite frustrated to be involved in that one, but Andrew Kinsella, spinning through turn 3, sees the field grind to a halt.
And a big time for a caution flag to make it a couple lap shootout. Kinsella absolutely not going to be happy with how he handled this here. Had already gotten a little bit loose the previous lap after being passed by Philip Kraus. This time around, or rather the next time around, just started to really fall off a cliff.
See how it works. So it all begun out of this turn 1 and 2 complex. So we are setting up for likely a 4 to 5 lap shootout. There's contact, isn't there? Yeah. Kinsella's instantly got a broken right rear. I don't think there's much that he can do. And so by the time he turns into the corner, you'll see it steps out on him. That's why he ducks below the apron. And from there, a chain reaction that sees Lano Kalisto run over as well. Not really sure what you could have expected different drivers to do differently. Let's jump on board with Phil Kraus, though, and ride from his perspective.
Now you see potential contact. He's got the run on the high side. Gives the lift, gives the hit, as you mentioned, breaks the tire. And it looks like Kinsella doesn't realize the tire is broken until right about here when it just whips around.
There would be no indication it was broken until it was broken, is the sad reality of that situation as well, to just put it into the context. Let's pick up what happened to Lionel Kalisto very quickly, because I think his car was so damaged that he had to instantly basically retire from the race. Was around Taylor, was around Harrington. And so the smoke will go up in front of him, and it's just Harrington up the track that fires Kalisto into the wall. Racing incident, though, if we're being fair.
Yeah, Harrington was just trying to pick a hole on the outside. The run was coming for Kalisto, just bad timing for Kalisto in terms of that flick up the track.
So we set ourselves up to shootouts here at Kansas. Handful of cars pitted, Bombers back. Branch, Graf, Guyon, and Frazier. I think they were expecting more to pit. So Kite Bommersback, from fighting inside of the top 5, now finds himself down in 16th spot on a single file restart. I do have a question about how much damage there is going to be on Connor Harrington's machine, because that was a pretty big whelp of a contact that he got in that moment with Kalisto.
My question is, how bad is the front wing with the contact from the right front tire and the right rear tire? It looks like there might be a small bend on the wing.
iRacing gods have smiled on him, to be fair.
It's not as bad as it could have been.
I mean, not the best angle from here. Not the best angle from here, but I don't really see too much damage on that. Shootout time. Think we'll get the lights off next time by, so it should be 4 laps. I still find it very difficult to see anyone displacing Van der Sande at the front of the field, but we know that Jacob Oster will give it his all.
Yeah, Oster has to find a way to peel Van der Sande off the bottom, I think, if he wants a shot. The top line just hasn't worked out to fully clear alongside unless it comes down to a drag race. So if for Oster, he has to be able to get the run out of turn 2, peel Van der Sande off the white line.
Remember, this has got a bit of a knack for close finishes in this Lionheart IndyCar Series. Not just the second closest finish back in Season 2, the tied second closest finish with Christopher edging out Joe Hassert in Season 4. But then back in Season 6, it was 5 thousandths more of a margin between what we saw in Season 4, Dan Guerin in front of Connor Harrington. Kansas also the 21st, 26th, and 39th closest finishes in series history, and the one that was not so close was 0.6 of a second. Lights are off on the pace car, so 4 laps. How aggressive will we see Oster go? That's one question. Does Phil Kraus just try and ride this race out to maintain the streak of podiums that he continues to get on?
I mean, if the opportunity presents itself, don't be surprised to see Kraus take it. But in the case of Oster, I think it comes down to, does he have the tires? Does he have the ability to get alongside Van der Sande and clear? It will take a lot of effort for Oster to get this done.
Prediction time, JP. I'm throwing you on the spot. Who comes out on top as we get ready to do this with 4 laps left to play?
I like Van der Sande's position. We've seen him handle the clean air well. We've seen him dictate the pace well. It's going to be difficult to pass him.
Leading laps has not always been a guarantee of victory, but Van der Sant has dominated the closing stages of this race. With 4 laps still left to go, can he do it to grab another victory in the Lionheart IndyCar Series? He'll hold the field and hold them as long as possible and cause a stack up in the back of the field. Caution flies. Has Alexander Van der Sant just won the Butt Kicker 200 at Kansas? Big drama immediately on the restart.
And not how you want this race to potentially come to a close here. And Van der Sant now absolutely in the position, just, wow.
Clumsy, clumsy, clumsy. We'll grab a look from up above, and we'll pick this one apart if we can, slow it down if needed. Doesn't look as though the field is changing speeds. I'm going to place some of the blame there on Andrew Marquez, just from that view that we had from up above. Looked like he was trying to time the run, and then by the time that he realized the field was going, he then stacked up a little bit more, and you'll just see.
Yeah, almost like when he hit the brakes, just snapped him around, and then it causes a second chain reaction right behind him.
And again, these are chain reactions. It's not just one driver that will take responsibility here, but you can just see Joshua Chin was trying to stay as close as possible. Behind, there's almost a separate incident that unfolded. We were so focused on what was going on in front of the field.
Yeah, once again, just try to play a little bit of games here to try and battle for spots. There's the checkup in the second part of the group. Cars lifted off the ground, and around goes the back half of the field.
Yeah, so 2 separate incidents. Now, I'm not sure, will we go racing once again or not? 3 to go, with the lights still on, so it'll all depend on whether the lights are on next time by. It was a long hold from Van der Sant. Well within his rights to do, though, JP, and we should make that very clear.
Leader dictates the start, and we've seen how he dictated the start, stacking the box, trying to prevent the runs from coming from behind. And now, it's a question of, do we get a one-lap shootout, or is this race done?
I think what he would have been thinking about as well is just trying to make sure there was as little opportunity for Oster to have closed, and for hopefully Oster to be thinking more about those behind than those in front. So, can understand the thinking for Alexander Van der Sant. It is not necessarily played out the way that he would have been hoping it to. So we'll get the indication here. Is it a one-lap shootout, or are we going to finish under this caution? The lights will determine on top of the pace car exactly what we do. It was a great race. Let's not mince our words. Caution-free for the opening half. 3 cautions in the back half of the race. Lots of drama and lots, I'm sure, of debriefing to be done across of the paddock. And as they cross the line in view of Barney the flagman, the lights will stay on. This race is officially official.
A solid job and solid strategy towards the end for Van der Sant. With the track position, able to take advantage of the caution flags. What a solid drive for the pack, though, as well for Philip Kraus to be able to get another podium.
Yeah, what does Phil Kraus need to do to not be on the podium?
Not make the start?
Not make the start. I did find that fun fact rather interesting, by the way. Remember, there have been 3 ties for pole position here at Kansas in the past. 2 of them involving Jake Wright. One of them did involve Chris Linney back in Season 8, by the way, and Adam Frazier in that time. Not so close in qualifying. I think we were shaping up for what would have been a rather interesting finish to this race. I see a bit of chat going on our YouTube chatter about leader's responsibility when it comes to the finish. I know I'm going to be called slightly biased as part of Powerslide Motorsports, but Alexander Van der Sant does nothing wrong. It's his choice when he wants to pick up the throttle and go. It's the responsibility of those behind to make sure they leave enough room and don't cause the big stack up. It's not how we would have wanted this race to end. It will end under caution. It will be Van der Sant in front of Oster, in front of Kraus. And while Jacob Oster might be a little bit frustrated that he didn't get the opportunity to fight his way forward, JP, in just his 3rd start in the series, he grabs his 2nd top 5, his 1st podium, and we know that for Oster, he just sometimes needs some luck for things to go his way.
He did a solid job this race. Again, fell off a lot in the final 10 laps of each of the runs, but just in the right place, right time for the timing of the caution flags, as we mentioned, to be in the conversation for the race win. Just needed a chance for it to go green to have any shot to try and send it underneath Van de Sant.
I was going to say that the next race we don't really have to worry too much about cautions. And then I remember what happened at Watkins Glen when we got the caution on lap 1, the automatic caution by iRacing on road courses, but hopefully it is not going to be an issue this time when we head to Phillip Island. Very excited about that one. Philip Kraus will be looking to return to his winning ways in this 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series, because what a remarkable run it really has been. 11 poles, 11 victories to speak of as well in the 19 races so far. Started at the back, has worked his way up to the podium, but today the plaudits will go to Alexander Van de Sant. For the second time in his Lionheart IndyCar Series career, he will cross the line and claim victory at the Butt Kicker Kansas 200 presented by Next Level Racing. It started with the call on strategy at the very start of the race to save as much fuel as possible. Van de Sant executed that strategy perfectly, and while cautions bunched the field up, Van de Sant kept his cool and emerges in HyperX victory lane.
And already wanting to speed himself around the racetrack to be able to celebrate the victory. Van de Sant, as mentioned, put himself in the right positions at the right time. Now it gets to burden on down here in Kansas.
Alexander Van de Sant comes from the inside of row number 2. It was 5 thousandths that split him from the front row of the grid. But at the end of the day, it's Alexander Van de Sant that burns it down in HyperX victory lane. After an impressive win at Watkins Glen earlier this year, he does it again and executes on pit road and executes on the track itself. It's running down through the SimRace 24/7 unofficial race results. It's Alexander Van de Sant in front of Jacob Oster and then Phil Kraus, all rookies in this 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series, showing the strength that has joined the party here in this calendar year. Matt Taylor fought his way forward, 18 spots, not maybe as notable as the 21 for Phil Kraus, but the Wadworks Motorsports number 8 will be delighted with that. Connor Harrington will be frustrated by the timing of the caution. He recovers, though, a top 5 finish at the end of the day. Caleb Benty in front of Jason Brophy, then Mitchell Riggs, the best of the Ascari Autosport machines, after they ran inside the top 5 for the majority of the day. Luis Gonzalez Nunez is plus 17 to work his way to 9th. Joshua Chin rounds out the top 10. Chris Lanini for Graphics LPM is down in 11th spot, in front though of Team Race versus Matt Houston, who found his way up 7 spots. Joe Branch and Kite Bommersback both lost positions over the course of the race, with Tyler Graf, Alex Guyon, Adam Frazier, and then Matthias Kraus and Andrew Marquez, the final cars left on the leading lap. John Badefer with a speeding penalty had to fight his way through the race and finishes down in 20th position. In front, though, of Bradley Sexton, Ron Hacker, and Brian Beard, the trio of Synergy Motorsports cars. Brian Beard, another one, caught out by pit lane entry. Andrew Kinsella, well, broke his right rear suspension in contact out on track. That caused one of the penultimate cautions. He finishes in front, though, of Lionel Callisto and Stefan Larkamp to round out the field of 26 that took to the green here in America's Heartland. And that leads us directly into our HyperX post-race show, because the Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com. And let's head straight to HyperX victory lane, where we're joined by Alexander Van de Sant. And Alex, it started as though it was going to go caution-free. You decided to save the fuel, and ultimately, even though the caution came out, it came out right as you were getting ready to enter the pit lane cycle with the field trapped 1 lap down. And then what a way to end the race.
Yeah, I was going to pit that lap when it came out, so yeah, pretty good timing. I kind of wish it had gone green. I was going to be in good shape with the fuel. I wouldn't have had to save it all, even if I was in clean air. So yeah, I So it would have been tricky though, because other people would have had the undercut, and so I'd have to be ahead of like Brophy and Kraus to like get that. But yeah, happy with how it worked out in the end. I was able to jump Jason on the in the pit lane, and not quite sure what happened on that restart there with him spinning into one. So apologies to him if that's my fault. I'm not sure yet. But yeah, really good race, really good battle with Jacob to the end there. We were both gave each other plenty of room, and in the end, I was just able to stay ahead.
Second victory of the year, and again, you had to do it both on pit lane and on track. As we head to Phillip Island and Auto Club, how are you feeling about solidifying this lock on second in the championship that you seem to have?
Yeah, feels great. I mean, my goal was top 5 overall, so to be second for almost all of the season is fantastic. It's beyond any of my expectations. Tonight, getting the win, I mean, I have an oval and a road win now this season, so that's pretty much all my goals for this season hit. So yeah, really happy. We're going to be really happy with second. Unfortunately, I'm missing Phillip Island though.
Oh no.
So yeah, I'll be on a work trip. So yeah, I needed a good result tonight with Rob gone as well. So and I know Adam isn't able to do either of these races. So yeah, really feeling comfortable in second, and we'll see what happens at Auto Club.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes indeed. You impressed on your debut at the end of 2021. Thanks for joining us, Alex. Congrats on the victory. We'll see you in California to round the show out.
Thanks, guys.
Alexander Van der Stant on top of HyperX victory lane. We step on over to Jacob Oster, who did what he could. Unfortunately, Jacob, cautions were just not going to allow you to fight to the checkered flag.
No, they were not. I had a really good battle with Alex. I was waiting for him to slip up a little bit, but Alex, ever the consistent person he is, he does not. And there was a couple of times where I think I may have been able to stick my nose in there, but it probably would have ended in calamity and a bunch of hurt feelings, so I did not want to do that. That was fun. I don't like finishing second all these times for sure, especially whenever you're commentating.
Hey, don't blame me, although there was some commentators cursing going on when it came to the cautions today. I'm just saying, before you go back and you blame me. I mean, when it comes, though, to this season, Jacob, of course, it's only, your third start of this 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series after running the majority of the year in the Speedway Series. You must be, I'm sure, frustrated with second, but surely you're also happy with Treno and Lichtenberg on the box as well to have worked your way into this position and to have run at the front for the majority of the race.
Yeah, it was. It is really nice to be able to come in here and run up front. I notice Carl a whole lot better than I do the DW12, and especially having time to have my teammates on the box really tell me if I'm struggling in certain areas that they see that I can't see. It's really, really helpful. I did struggle with tire wear a little bit. Didn't really understand the set as much as I really wanted to, but I figured it out kind of in the end when I was battling with Alex. It's a little bit easier in clean air. It was. I'm glad I'm able to run this and run so well after the drama I've had in Speedway all season. It's nice to come up here and actually run up front.
Well, we'll see how it goes for you in the final 2 rounds of the season. Congratulations on the run, Jacob. Very impressive run here today.
Thank you, Arjuna.
Jacob Oster, second for the factory-backed team, alongside, of course, with Team i5G. We step over to a man that had, 5 laps of practice coming into this one, but Phil, clearly that's not enough of a bop for you to not finish on the podium, because you did it once again. 21 positions gained over the course of that race. What was that first stint like as you tried to understand and learn the track and the car?
Yeah, it was 5 laps, maybe 6 if I'm being generous, but yeah, it drove a bit differently than I thought it would, because my inkling of it was that it was going to be a pretty massive pack race, like going into it, because I didn't do any laps coming up to it. But yeah, the tire wear was actually quite important, I think, from anywhere, maybe 3rd on back, but probably more so 4th on back, and it really showed at the end of the first and second stint when I was able to make up a few spots, especially on the first, and I think I made up like 5 or 6 spots in the last 10 laps just because of tire wear. But yeah, honestly, it was a pretty fun race. So 2 for 2 at Phoenix in like enjoyment factor.
Oh, I like it when you talk about it from the enjoyment factor, because I think that's something that you and I have kind of talked about as well, Phil. You're not being the most busy this year, but you've been, focused on what you have been and competing at a high level. You've been feeling the effects of burnout a little bit over the course of a long 2022.
Yeah, to be honest. I've definitely driven the IndyCar this year more than I ever have before, and it's getting a little tiring, and there's still a lot more exciting stuff to come with the Open Wheels GP this weekend, and then obviously the Open Wheels 500 later this month, which are going to be two marquee events in the year for the IndyCar community. So definitely really looking forward to those. And then the last two Lionheart races at Pagillip Island and Auto Club, looking forward to those as well for sure.
And then you can say goodbye to the IndyCar for at least a couple of months, and then maybe focus a little bit more on some prototype action and Ivor competition. Congratulations on yet another podium, Phil. Clearly we need a better bot for you. We'll figure that out in time for Phillip Island.
Cheers.
I think next time we just don't allow Phil Kraus to join the session. Simplest way of bopping him, don't let him race. What a year it has been for him. But I mean, despite the frustration that I'm sure some of those drivers feel, JP, at how the race came to an end, still a very fascinating one, and gets me excited for now the final two rounds of 2022.
Yeah, Phillip Island going to be a thriller in case of who's going to be able to come out on top of the road course. We've seen how many drivers try and figure themselves out with the strategy. We've seen attrition come into play a couple times at the facility. Can Philip Kraus build another house at Phillip Island?
Here's a look at that facility. Not sure if Adam Blocker will be racing, but he has just come back from a trip where he watched the MotoGP race from this legendary facility. It's fast, it's flowing, not much passing last time. Strategy played its factor. That, of course, on November the 16th, the penultimate race of the season. It is also the final of our road course round, so we will know exactly who is going to win the road course championship once we finish things up at Phillip Island. But before we get there, we finish things up here in America's heartland. And Kansas Speedway was expected maybe to be a pack race. It was not as bad as maybe drivers had feared. Before we say goodbye, we say thank you to those that make this possible, starting with the title sponsor of today's race and the 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series. You're passionate about sim racing, but it always feels a little flat compared to the feeling of driving a real car. Now you can actually feel what it's like to drive a race car. Butt Kicker haptic hardware and software are easy to install and let you feel every bump in the track, slip of your tire, and engine redline. The tactile feedback is so accurate and realistic, you'll be driving faster and having more fun than ever before. The Lionheart Racing Series is powered by HyperX, makers of premier gaming gear like the legendary ultra-comfortable Cloud line of gaming headsets. Whatever you play, however you play, HyperX knows that we're all gamers. For more information on HyperX products, visit hyperx.com.
Next Level Racing is an industry-leading cockpit and motion simulator manufacturer while creating the most immersive experience possible for the global sim racing community. Take your racing to the next level and visit www.nextlevelracing.com.
Moser Racing is revolutionizing sim racing with the development of industry-leading hardware and software products, like their R9 direct drive wheelbase and GS steering wheel. Featuring zero-delay wireless technology and made from high-end materials, Moser Racing delivers the precision you need to reach victory lane.
Gomez Sim Industries are makers of high-end esports equipment and controls, precision-built using nothing but the best materials available today. Passion and handmade craftsmanship drive each made-to-order build, creating a drummed experience like no other. Visit GomezSimIndustries.com.
And it's not just them, but so many more. To learn about the partners of the Lionheart Racing Series or the 3 competitions the sanctioning body puts forward, head over to LionheartRacingSeries.com while you can stay connected on social media to the latest news from the world of Lionheart. Still a handful of races to go in this 2022 Lionheart IndyCar Series, but the year as a whole is coming to an end. The year for 2022 and Lionheart Racing Series is also coming to an end. A week off for these drivers before they go racing once more. However, before they go racing, both the Lionheart Retro Series and the Lionheart Speedway Series get themselves underway. Importantly, though, it is the Gomez Sim Industries Championship 200 presented by Butt Kicker on November 14th. Catch the action here live on RaceSpot TV at 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific as we crown a champion in the Dallara DW12. For now, though, we bid you farewell. For the team at RaceSpot, for myself, Arjuna Kankipati, alongside the one and only Justin Prince, we bid you farewell from America's heartland. We'll see you next time from Phillip Island in the land down under, where Phil Kraus will look to continue his momentum. However, today is all about Alexander Van der Sant.